All right, today we are digging into a Nobel Prize-winning idea that is genuinely going to change the way you look at your own resume. It's called job market signaling, and it's all based on a really groundbreaking paper from 1973 by an economist named Michael Spence.
So let's just jump right in with a question I am sure you've asked yourself at some point. Have you ever been scrolling through job listings and wondered, why on earth do so many of these jobs require a college degree, even when the actual work seems to have absolutely nothing to do with what you studied? It feels like a total puzzle, right? Well, it turns out Spence's work gives us a really powerful and, frankly, kind of a shocking answer.
To really get it, we first have to put ourselves in the employer's shoes. We have to see the job market from their side. And for them, let me tell you, every single hire is a hidden gamble.
I mean, think about it. When a company is looking to hire someone, they're placing a huge bet. They can look at your resume, they can chat with you in an interview, but they can't see the one thing, the single most important thing that actually matters: how productive you're really going to be once you're on the job. At least, not yet.
Spence himself put it perfectly all the way back in '73. He wrote, "To hire someone, then, is frequently to purchase a lottery." And that just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this core problem. An employer is giving you a guaranteed salary in exchange for your future work, and that future work is always a bit of a gamble.
Now, there's a formal economic term for this whole mess. It's called information asymmetry. It sounds fancy, but all it really means is that there's an imbalance of information. You, the job applicant, you know way more about your own skills and your work ethic than the employer ever could. So the entire hiring process, every interview, every reference check, it's all just an attempt to close that information gap.
So, how do employers try to solve this puzzle? Well, this brings us right to the heart of Spence's big idea. Instead of just trying to guess how productive you are, they look for clues. Or more specifically, they look for you to send them a costly signal.
Spence makes a really important distinction here between two kinds of information an employer might see. First, you've got signals. These are things you can actually alter or choose to acquire, like your education or your work experience. And then you have indices. These are things you can't change, like your race, sex, or age. For now, we're going to focus on the signals.
Okay, so if a college degree is a signal, what makes it a good one? What makes it trustworthy? Well, the secret ingredient, according to Spence, is its cost. He calls this the signaling cost. All the money, all the time, and all the sheer effort that it takes to actually get that degree.
And this right here, this is the absolute key to the entire theory. So lean in. A signal, like a degree, only works to separate high performers from low performers if it is somehow cheaper for the most productive people to get it. I mean, think about it. If getting a degree was equally hard for everybody, it wouldn't really tell an employer anything useful about who's who, would it? So we have this idea of a costly signal. Now let's see how this plays out in the real world, because this is where it gets wild. It creates this kind of self-reinforcing system, a system where beliefs can literally become reality.
Spence uses a super simple model to make this crystal clear. Just imagine a job market with only two types of workers. You've got Group I, our low productivity workers. Let's say their productivity is 1. For them, getting some amount of education, we'll call it Y, costs them Y. Simple enough. But then you have Group 2, the high productivity workers. Their productivity is double. It's 2. But, and this is the key, for them, that same education only costs them half as much, Y divided by 2. It's just easier or cheaper for them to get it. That's the link between cost and productivity we were just talking about.
Okay, now, employers can't actually tell these two groups apart just by looking at them. So what do? They form a belief. They just decide, okay, we believe there's some magic level of education, we'll call it Y star, that separates the high productivity people from the low. So they offer a low wage to anyone with less than Y star and a high wage to anyone who has Y star or more. It's a simple rule based on nothing but a belief.
So what happens next? Well, each group just does the math and makes a rational choice. For the low productivity folks in Group I, the cost of grinding it out to get that Y-star credential, it's just too high. The pay raise isn't worth the effort, so they opt out, choosing zero education. But for the high productivity Group 2, for them, the wage jump is way bigger than their lower cost of getting the degree. So of course they go for it. And bam, just like that, the two groups have sorted themselves perfectly, completely confirming the employer's initial belief. The belief literally created the reality.
But here's the really shocking part. What if employers just keep raising the bar? What if they start demanding a higher and higher U-star? Spence points out how incredibly inefficient this is. He says, increases in U-star improve the quality of the sorting not one bit. They simply use up real or psychic resources. This can lead to what people call an educational arms race, where everyone is forced to spend more and more on credentials just to stay in the same place. And that is a massive waste of time and money for everybody.
Now, if that wasn't already mind-bending enough, the theory gets even more powerful, and honestly a lot more disturbing when we bring back those unalterable characteristics, the indices. This is where we get to signals, indices, and traps.
So let's ask a new question. What happens when you have two groups of people who are, on average, completely identical in terms of their talent and their signaling costs, but they're visibly different? Let's say by sex or race, which are the examples that Spence uses in his paper. Well, because employers can see this visible difference, this index, they can hold different beliefs about each group. They might believe that for one group, a bachelor's degree signals high productivity. But for the other group, for whatever reason, they might believe you need a master's degree to prove the exact same thing. In effect, what they've done is they've created two completely separate, unequal ladders to get to the very same high-paying job.
This could lead to something that Spence calls a lower-level equilibrium trap. This is where a group gets stuck at a disadvantage. And here's the really crucial part. This happens not because of any real difference in their ability, and not even necessarily because of active prejudice from the employer, but simply because the market's beliefs created unequal requirements, and those unequal requirements then became self-fulfilling prophecies. It's a trap built out of information.
Okay, let's take a breath and pull all of this together and figure out what it all really means. Let's talk about the real cost of our credentials.
So what are the big takeaways here? First, at its core, hiring is a gamble because of hidden information. Second, things like degrees aren't just about skills. They act as powerful signals of your hidden productivity. Third, that signal only works if its cost is somehow linked to productivity. Fourth, this whole system can lead to really wasteful arms races for more and more credentials. And finally, and maybe most unsettling, the market can create these deep inequality traps for identical groups based on nothing more than unchangeable traits or indices.
And that brings us right back around to where we started. That college degree on your resume? According to this theory, its main value might not be the specific skills you learned in class. Its real value is that it's proof. It's proof that you are smart enough and disciplined enough to survive a long, costly, difficult ordeal. It's a credible signal in a very, very high-stakes information game.
And that leaves us with a pretty challenging final thought. If our most important credentials are just incredibly expensive signals designed to sort us into piles, then what are we really paying for with our education? Is it knowledge? Or is it just a very, very expensive ticket to get to the front of the line? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.